of symmetry, to fight the unbeatable foe.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of Chatting with Lady C. Hello Mum, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, honey. And you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Before we answer any questions today, my mum's just going to talk about the petition.
Yeah, thank you, honey. Yes, various people have asked various questions and made various observations about the petition. And I'd just like to clear up one or two misconceptions that some people seem to have. I think the least important, but possibly the first one to address, is one or two people seem to think that I would be against Parliament acting upon the petition with regard to the Sussexes because I might lose my title via Parliament. It's not possible. My title is a courtesy title. It bears no relationship whatsoever to the powers of Parliament. They did not endow it and they cannot take it away. That's an English Parliament. Insofar as the title is concerned, it's also a Scottish title, and Scottish titles are governed by a completely different set of rules from English titles. So there's not only no hope of it being taken away should anybody wish to have it taken away, but also if I remarried 10 times, I don't have to give it up according to Scottish law. So just so we can clear up that misconception, because certain people obviously seem to think that I was very self-interested, which I'm certainly not. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it is not a good idea for me to start this petition because it needs to be started by somebody who is not only impartial, but is perceived to be impartial. Some people would say, although my book is very impartially written, I am not impartial because I have written a book about the Sussexes. Therefore, it needs to be headed up by somebody who has no axe whatsoever to grind. They need to have completely clean hands. So that's the second thing. And the third point is there are already petitions out there which, without being critical or pejorative, that are not sufficiently neutral to answer the needs for an absolutely clear petition that does not offend either the pro, the anti, or the neutral Meghan and Harrys. Everybody needs to know that the petition, when it is drafted, is done in such a way that it is not only in the interests of the British nation, the British system, the British monarchy, but also ultimately in Harry and Meghan's interests as well. I do not think, even though I respect people's opinions, I do not think that the way to get a petition going that could possibly be successful would be one that has any punitive overtones. I think a petition that actually feeds into Harry and Meghan's interests and their ambitions is actually a far more productive and constructive way of going about things. I think it's a rule of thumb in life that wherever possible, it's better to be not punitive, but to actually give people what they want. And I think we should take Harry and Meghan at their word that they want to be seen to be humanitarians, interested in the good of humanity, interested in making money for themselves, interested in political activism, much of which is incompatible with having royal titles, but is definitely compatible with them if they voluntarily surrender the use of their royal titles for the full length of time that they are actually engaged in the activities that they said they want to be engaged in and have been engaged in recently. What do you think?
I think you're right, and I think if they want to be in the public eye more, and then they should get rid of their titles. They've abandoned their duties anyway for the royal family, so they should just get rid of their titles.
Yeah. Well, there is definitely a conflict of interest, but there is actually, for what it's worth, there is a petition that has been drafted that is behind the scenes in the process of being put together to be posted on change.org. And I would appeal to everybody who is interested in this matter to get behind that petition when it comes out, because and that all the other petitions join forces with that one, because it needs to be a petition that is neutral, and it needs to be a petition that allows Harry and Meghan a degree of dignity as well. So, questions for the day, my love.
So today's first question is going to be, Jane Curbs, could you please share with us where you have hung your gorgeous portrait?
I take it that's the Tushar Sabale portrait that was done, and that's on the front page of the Art Review magazine. Well, as you know, it is hung in the Galba drawing room, which is one of the state drawing rooms downstairs. Downstairs on the Piano Nobile, for those who don't know, there is an enfilade of drawing rooms, one after the other, each of which opens up into the other, hence why it becomes an enfilade. And the one that is on the southeast is where it is hung. It is hung between two windows, and maybe we can show a picture of it.
Yes, we can put a picture up for you.
Oh, lovely, thank you. So, good, a nice non-controversial question. Another question?
So for our second question, it's from Glenwood. Lady C, I have a question about relinquishing titles, re-Prince Harry and re-Prince Philip. If Harry should become a full American citizen and relinquish his titles over there, then has he officially relinquished his titles in Britain, as American law is not English law? The second part of my question refers to Prince Philip, who was required to give up being a prince of Greece and Denmark when he married Princess Elizabeth, as she then was. Was there any good reason for this, or did the powers that be just wanted to stick the boot in? And as far as Greece and Denmark are concerned, is Prince Philip still a prince? Wouldn't he have to sign some kind of statutory declaration in Denmark embassy to stop being a prince of Denmark? Would Harry have to sign something like a reserve letter patent to stop being a prince of the UK?
Okay. Oh, I think that's more than one question in one, isn't it?
Yes, it's about 3 in 1.
Yes, okay. So, anybody who becomes an American citizen and has a title of nobility or a royal title has to surrender it, and they have to renounce it in the act of becoming an American citizen. I'm afraid legal renunciations are not the sort of matter where you can say, oh, I put my fingers behind my back and crossed them and didn't really mean it. You really mean it. This, of course, has presented difficulties for people over the years. For instance, King Michael of Romania renounced the throne of Romania not once but twice. And then when it became inconvenient to accept the renunciation, he tried to backtrack. Well, you can't, as I told Constantine Brankovan, who was his chamberlain many years ago. I said, the man's a king, for goodness sake. If he doesn't want to sign it, he says to them, if they have a loaded gun to his head, pull the bloody trigger. He doesn't say, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. Well, you always mean it when you renounce your title officially. If the powers that be then wish to allow you to revoke the revocation, that's another matter altogether. But it is irrevocably revoked. And if the powers that be do not wish to allow you to revoke it, to revoke the revocation, I'm afraid you are stuffed, to put it in the English vernacular. Which means that should Harry become an American citizen, he becomes Mr. Henry Windsor, full stop. He ceases being His Royal Highness Prince Henry, Duke of Sussex, Earl of Dumbarton, Lord Killeal, etc., etc., etc. He becomes Mr. Henry Windsor, full stop. The part that refers to Prince Philip, Prince Philip was encouraged to give up his Greek citizenship because he was, I think, sixth in line to the Greek throne at the time of his marriage. And although there was a very remote possibility that he would accede to the throne, it was so remote as to be inconceivable. So he was not losing anything. At the time, the powers that be did not realize that he was already a British citizen, because by virtue of being a descendant of the Electress Sophia, who was George I's mother, and upon whom the Act of Settlement was settled for her and her descendants, all of her descendants until relatively recently were automatically British princes, princesses. At the time of the Act of Settlement, all of the Electress Sophia's descendants were made princes and princesses of this kingdom. And therefore, Prince Philip was already a British prince, a British Royal Highness, as well as a British citizen, but nobody knew it. They thought he was a Greek and Danish prince. It just goes to show how even the powers that be sometimes don't know what the law is. And so he was made to renounce his right to the Greek throne. He didn't have to, but the marriage, to make it acceptable to the British people, he had to be seen to be a British citizen. His sisters were all married to German army officers, which caused a great awkwardness because this was 2 years after the war had ended. And so there were all sorts of political reasons why it suited him to renounce his Greek and Danish titles and his right to the Greek throne, because such right as he has to the Danish throne would have been so ridiculously remote as to not be worth even factoring into the equation. He renounced all titles and became Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, RN, Royal Navy, which is what he was until the day of his marriage, when King George VI made him the Duke of Edinburgh, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. George VI assumed that by making him His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, he was reinstated his birth rank of prince. In fact, it turned out not to be so. And it was over a decade later that the Queen, when she became aware of the omission, restored his princely rank. So he then became His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. And the is the all-important factor, because those are only the sons or daughters of monarchs. And Philip was not the son of a monarch, but he was given the rank of the son of a monarch to precede all beings in the land, with the exception of the Queen, and on an occasional basis, in terms of government business, the Prince of Wales, but usually the Prince of Wales as well. So I think, have I covered the whole subject? Oh yes. How did he do it? He did it by a statutory declaration. An act of renunciation is a very simple thing. You simply renounce it. It's a statutory declaration. You declare that you're renouncing something, you sign it, and it's renounced. And once it's signed, it is irrevocably renounced, as I said earlier. So, what do you think of that?
Yes, it gets to the point. It really does. I think it will be very interesting for people to know. So, yeah. All right, so we're going to start on for our third question for today. As an anonymous source claiming connections to the Democratic National Committee in the USA has claimed that the Duchess of Sussex has, among other things, declared her feelings that she would be interested in taking the place of Kamala Harris. In the event that she and Mr. Biden are successful in the election, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it cannot be said that Meghan is backward in coming forward. She is extraordinarily pushy, as even Amit Scabies and Karen Durand have claimed in their book, because I'm, in the next video, going to be doing something about them and the book. And one of the things I have alighted upon is their admission that she is beyond extraordinarily pushy. And I mean, it's really almost embarrassing to people who are well-mannered and civilized to see that any human being, especially one with pretensions to civility, could always be, don't forget about me. No, I want to be at the front of that queue. I want to be at the front. Oh, I'll be vice president. I'll be president. Oh, please, don't forget about me. Don't forget. Please don't forget about me. Please. I count. I really do count. It's unbelievable. Of course, yes, Mickey. Yes, Mickey. Mickey says she counts. Yes, you count more than anybody, and certainly more than any silly Duchess of Sussex. But I mean, the whole thing's beyond ridiculous. Of course, it may not be true, but the fact that she has systematically put herself forward for absolutely everything else suggests that if it's not true, it could be true. And if it didn't happen, it could happen, or it might still happen. The fact of the matter is if the American people vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they haven't voted for Meghan Markle, Sussex, whatever name she's going to be known as by the time of the election, maybe Meghan Windsor, or hopefully Meghan Windsor. Incidentally, for what it's worth, Dorothy
Yes.
knows the whole Harris family very well, because people have asked me about, do I know Kamala Harris and her family? Well, of course, I don't know Kamala Harris and or her family, but people I do know from Jamaica do know them. And in fact, Kamala's father was an Issa scholar,
Okay.
because Paul told me. For the viewer, the Issas are a great mercantile family who own most of the hotels in the West Indies. Those that aren't owned by the Issas are owned by Butch Stewart of Sandals. And the present generation's parents created Issa scholarships in much the same way that Cecil Rhodes created Rhodes Scholars. They created Issa scholars, worthy young men who were bright, or women, I suppose, as well, who were bright and who would be sent to top universities in America and England to get a proper education that wasn't available to them in Jamaica in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamala Harris's father was an Issa scholar.
Okay.
So he got his start thanks to the Issas, which just goes to show where a degree of noblesse oblige and a degree of giving back is a very desirable thing, and it has very often very good results, and it certainly did in terms of him, because he's a very eminent personage academically in America now. So I think that's enough at the moment on Kamala Harris and President Meghan. Oh, God, whatever next? I mean, really, you do have to laugh, don't you?
All right. And our last question for today. On a non-Meghan note, the matter of Miss Delphine Boel, she has filed suit seeking parity of title and style with her legitimately born royal siblings and state-funded housing. Do you feel that there is any basis in law of her suit, either in Belgium or the EU law?
Well, I don't know Delphine Boel very well. I've met her once or twice. I've actually been to one or two of her parties when you children were 8, 10, that sort of thing. When we were all living in London fully.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very nice. She's from a very good Belgian aristocratic family, and she's a very fine artist, according to many people. And she is also socially absolutely charming, impeccably behaved. And the way King Albert treated her paternity was actually very unseemly, and as it turns out, ultimately has been self-defeating and unnecessary. I see what she's aiming for. I would say that I have no idea whether in Belgian law legitimate and illegitimate children have the same rights. I have no idea. So if they do, her suit is tenable. If they don't, her suit is basically untenable. I mean, I have a certain amount of sympathy with her because I would imagine that her aim, really, because of the shocking way in which King Albert behaved, because for many years he played a full part in her life and then pulled back and then resisted recognizing her or doing it even privately. And so she had to call in the big guns to blast him into submission. And I get that there's obviously an element of, I demand justice for myself. I would imagine that the most desirable outcome for all concerned would be if Belgian law does not allow parity between legitimate and illegitimate children, that the present king, who is her brother, give her a dukedom of some sort, a hereditary dukedom, so she becomes the Duchess of whatever in her own right, and settles an annuity upon her that is sufficiently substantial to take the sting of mistreatment out of the wound. I think that's the way that honour will be served all around. And I would hope that that will be the outcome. I will hope that it doesn't go to court. And if it doesn't go to court and it's settled along lines of that sort, honour will be served all around, because she is indubitably, in social terms, absolutely one of them. And, the fact that she was not legitimate doesn't alter the fact that she is genuinely, on her father's side, royal, and on her mother's side, aristocratic, and that the dignity of her being should be acknowledged. I think that's the way to serve honour all around. And I wish her well. I wish them all well. I feel rather sorry for the king, and I feel less sorry for his father, the King Emeritus Albert. I feel less sorry for him. But I get also why he, because I suppose he found it embarrassing as he was going to become king, and Queen Paula obviously thought, it's an awkward situation, and these things are awkward, but they're best handled with everybody being given some dignity, I think. What do you think?
I think you're completely right.
You do?
Yeah.
Thank you, honey.
No worries.
Thank you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please hit the subscribe button, like, and share with your friends. Thank you very much.
And the next one will be more on the dreaded book, which so many people have asked me to continue to wade through. And I am delighted to wade through it, although it would be nice if people could send me in a few nose clippers so I can avoid the stench. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.